This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system. And America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all.
Alright guys, welcome back. So, as you can see by how sweaty I am, it's hot as freaking Satan's ass crack today. But anyways, just buttoning up a few things. If you can tell behind me, I don't know. Yeah, there we go. We got the old dad bod loaded up on the trailer. We are getting ready for Hollyrock next weekend. So luckily with this truck, there really isn't a whole lot going on that needed to be addressed. I did notice that I have an exhaust leak coming out from between the manifold and the head. So gonna retorque the studs on that. Also the turbo, let me see, I'll show you a picture of that. As you can see, the turbo, the powder on here is garbage. The bubbles that are coming up in it, from what I've heard, this is from the imperfections that are in the actual cast aluminum housing itself. So I've got a guy here local. It's actually Joe with Patriot Performance. He's one of the ones that was giving us a hand working on the junkyard box the other day. Anyways, he does powder, and he was explaining to me, how they can go about trying to get the imperfections out of the cast and get the powder to hold up better. So pulled the housing off, and I'm headed to go drop that off with him to get him to repowder it before Hollyrock. That way it looks presentable again. Other than that, a good detail away from being ready to, show her face again at a public event. Other than that though, the dad bod is pretty much ready to go. We went testing the other day. Everything seemed pretty good. Still need to work on that launch tune a little bit. May try to get with Ryan at Hollyrock and let him get in the truck so we can adjust the tuning with him actually there. It's a whole lot easier than going back and forth data logging. The other thing was the mega cab out there. A while back, I went through and had an issue with the truck running hot. I mentioned something about it on here. And if you remember before Rudy's, we changed out the water pump and thermostat and radiator cap, just simple stuff, just to see if that would help. The truck wouldn't actually overheat, so to speak, but it was running warmer than I wanted, especially towing the trailer. I had to watch how I was getting into the accelerator, because if I got up around, 3/4 throttle, or even if I was just accelerating for a long period of time, pulling the trailer, getting up to speed, the temps would keep climbing. It would get up 215, 218, 220, and would just keep climbing if I let it. So I had to kind of watch what I was doing. I could still cruise highway speeds. It was just accelerating was a little bit of an issue. And it seemed like the problem progressively got worse. So after Rudy's, got back, kind of trying to figure out what was going on, and I got looking and found out the fan clutch wasn't actually doing its job. I should have caught that before, but I just didn't even really think about it. My thought was that the thermostat was sticking or something, and I had assumed that doing those things before Rudy's would alleviate that, and it didn't. So here's what I came up with. I did some research, got talking with people, and my buddy Rod McMaster, I'm sure you guys know who he is. He's got a white single cab Cummins 3rd gen, runs 590, freaking beautiful truck. Anyways, he gave me the tip to this aftermarket fan clutch. It's not actually specifically designed for these trucks. You have to buy an adapter hub for them to go on, but they're supposedly the bee's knees for this truck, and as far as the cooling system goes. So I got one of those. I'll post a link up here. And then also for the adapter hub. But anyways, Nathan came by last week while I was at work, seeing as we're kind of on a time crunch, and he swapped out the fan clutch for me. So we got that swapped out. And the next day, I drove the truck, and it was definitely better. So before cruising with the truck empty, cruising temps would be up around like 206 to 210, and then accelerating would climb up, somewhat close to 220. After this, it brought it down to where, it was hanging out around 200 with the new fan clutch. But it was still warmer than what I wanted. And you could see the thermostat working like it's supposed to and everything, but I just could not keep it below 200 degrees no matter what I did. Now, back before Rudy's, like I said, I'd put a new thermostat in it, and it was a 190 degree thermostat. Well, I went back, got a new thermostat again. This time I got 180 degree, and now the truck is running between 180 and 190 all the time. Sometimes accelerating with a load on the back, it might climb up to 200, but for the most part, it's staying exactly where I wanted it to, and in the end, 200 really isn't bad. One thing I also added, I added some of this water wetter. A lot of you guys probably know what it is. It's used in a lot of race applications, but it's supposed to help keep temps cooler just by putting that additive in there. So I did that as well. So between the water wetter, the new thermostat, and the new fan clutch, the Mega Cab is now running as cool as it needs to be. So it is ready to go for Hollyrock. Trevor, tell the YouTube world what you're doing.
About to make a bigger mess.
Oh, my daggone shop floor does not stand a chance.
Between me and Nathan, there's a wrap.
So I lied a little bit when I said that we had no pre-Hollyrock prep to do, which that one is pretty much done other than putting a battery back in it. But we got the full send diesel transline kit. And man, this thing needs to, geez, look at how dirty the powder is, son. Ugh. Anyways, clean this thing up, get the full send diesel trans lines on it, and we'll have that wrapped up. So one more thing to add to the list, nothing big. We're gonna let it drain overnight. That way we can get all the fluid out of the cooler up front, and then we'll put the new lines on tomorrow night. And while Trevor contemplates his life on how he's got to crawl through all the oil dry and oil and water and mud and everything that's dripping out from under the truck to get the pan off, we're gonna go ahead, and it'll be easier to access the lines to the cooler if the cooler is out, obviously. So if you don't already know, trans cooler is the third one back, I guess you would say. You got your condenser, intercooler, and then your trans cooler. So 13 millimeter, 4 bolts, 2 on each side to pull the AC condenser out. And then you got your 10 millimeter bolts there and opposite end for the intercooler. Pop the clamps off, we'll get that out of the way. And then we'll get the trans cooler ready to pop out. What are you doing, son?
Well, what happened was, I went to go get a pry bar to take the pan off, and in the process, it fell off. Well, 30 seconds ago, it was stuck.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, that's gonna clean it real nice.
Jesus Christ.
Not too bad.
Well, other than the oil dry everywhere, just a little bit of clutch material. Huh, looks good. Yeah. Fluid still looks like brand new. Daggone TRE trains ready to put in work. Time for this pig to finally make some power now. So all the coolers are out of the way anyways, except for pulling the trans cooler out. We have to get to the fittings that are back there. But like I said, we're gonna let it drain overnight before we take these out. That way we don't make any more of a mess than we got to. And then we will get the new ones installed. Picking up where we left off, making a mess.
Always.
All right, so Trevor got the factory lines cut because we don't feel like dicking around with them. And I'm gonna pull the trans cooler out. As you can see, it's already dropped down some. Pull it out and cut it up here where these fittings clip on it. And then it has these, I guess you call them what, a compression fitting, that will squeeze down onto the tubing and then run the new hoses. So yeah, anyways, do that. As you can see through all the crap up on top of the box, the compressor cover is back. Joseph repowdered that for us, so we can get that back on the old dad bod and get the button and stuff up. All right, so got the compressor cover and intake back on, kind of wiped the engine bay down a little bit. It was a little dusty. Truck's still filthy because I haven't washed it in like a year and a half. Just gets wipe downs, but I'll wait till we get to the track to wipe down the outside of the truck, because I'm sure it'll be covered in bugs. But loaded up, strapped down. Just got to get the Mega Cab loaded up, hooked up to the trailer. And Trevor just finished up putting on the line kit. Let's see. So, as you can see, a nice FSD line kit here. feeding down to the bottom. So while he's down there hooking that up, I'm gonna finish buttoning up the front end here. So, all right, so the front end is buttoned up, back together. Intercooler piping back on that we had taken off was in the way. Kind of wiped the engine bay down just a little bit so it didn't look so dingy. And Trevor is trying to figure out where a bunch of wires go that he unplugged earlier that were in our way. So get those plugged up, throw the stocks on the front so it'll fit between the fenders on the trailer, and fill this thing up with trans fluid and see if it drives again. Woo! Shoo, look at them crispy stockies there. Fill this sucker up with fluid, should be good to ride. All right, guys, so as you can see behind me, we are all loaded up and ready to head to Hollyrock. Got the old mega cab loaded down, other than got to throw a cooler in the back and a couple chairs. Got the Optima for the dad bod charging yet again. So hopefully it'll start throughout the weekend. The good old Optima charger that doesn't seem to be helping me right now. Maybe it's just a battery issue. Maybe it's not the charger, but anyways, the dad bod is pretty much wrapped up. All we really had to do was put the compressor cover and intake back on, throw the intake air temperature sensor back in, clean up the engine bay just a little bit, loaded up some detailing products in there so I can clean it when we get to the track, and got it strapped down. So that's pretty much it. But anyways, thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all at Hollyrock tomorrow.